All right, we are back, and you saw it. We're talking Memphis Tigers basketball at this point in time, and we've already had this discussion a little bit before the season started that such a tough preseason for Penny and company, but done intentionally to prepare them for the NCAA tournament. Now you're starting to see the Tigers get on a roll.
It's just kind of sad to see that the Penny scheduled such a tough non-conference and they went winless. They don't have a statement victory in non-conference.
Which you kind of need, but
it's some tough losses. They lost a heartbreaker to Purdue, a heartbreaker in overtime to Vanderbilt, lost to Louisville,
lost to Ole Miss,
lost to Mississippi State. They didn't get a single victory in non-conference. I mean, we're not counting Alabama State because they were supposed to win that one.
You need to win I shouldn't say you need. In a perfect world, you get one or two of those statement wins so that if you do struggle during the conference play, you've got those big wins on your resume and everybody's cool with it. But now, without any statement wins,
you got to win the conference.
Got to win the
conference. You have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is no Memphis at large. They have to get in the conference. And since they've started conference play, Ruben, they got back right. 7-7 overall, undefeated in the conference. They got a victory over North Texas, and then they got a victory over Rice. What do you see from them?
I see that just in watching a little, we watch a lot of different stuff, just so people know. But in watching what I've been able to see, and then I'm a stats guy. I dig through the stats a lot. Because the numbers, too. I always say, what was it, Yo Gotti said, numbers don't lie?
Yeah. Men lie, women lie, but the numbers don't.
The numbers don't. So when I'm looking at those numbers, what I'm seeing is that you only have one starter playing 30-plus minutes.
Yeah.
That's Doug McDaniel.
He's been merged as the guy, though.
Yes, you said a while back they were missing a guy.
A go-to guy.
And he's becoming their guy. Then they've got Hassan Abdul-Hakim, who's getting 20 minutes plus off the bench, but he's the only guy. Since conference play has started, so it's just 2 games, but he's the only other guy getting that kind of minutes consistently. So really what you've got is you've got starters playing single-digit minutes.
Yeah.
And backups, reserves coming in playing double-digit, if not 20-plus minutes in some of these conference games now that conference play has started.
Now, the thing that I kind of see about the Tigers is they are a very small team, in my opinion. They have so many guards who play. You got McDaniel, who is the head of the spear, but then you got Curtis Givens.
Yes.
You got Quante Berry. You got Julius Stedford. You got Ashton Hardaway. These are all guards, and you have to diverse the minutes. The thing that, to me, and we've said
you know why there's so many guards at this level?
Why? Because they can't recruit the big? Well, see, no, I'm glad you got to that because the guy who they gave the money to, Bradshaw, and he's a guy who we continue to say on this program needs to step up.
Yes, but what I'm saying is when you have more money to give, you can have more than one big that you rely on. The reason why Memphis is, in my opinion, Memphis isn't the only one. A lot of schools at this level are going to have limited bigs because those bigs go for big money to those bigger conferences.
Yeah.
They'll take them at those bigger conferences, even as a project at times, because they've got the money, they can do that.
Well, why doesn't Memphis dip into the international pool? Like what Baylor did with the Najee guy.
Well, I don't.
So what is your take on that?
You don't take your old butt and go get a job somewhere. My opinion is,
why isn't Memphis going over to Cameroon or Europe?
According to the NCAA rules, and I have looked into this, according to the NCAA rules, you can get paid to play as long as it doesn't exceed your cost of living, basically. So you're technically not a pro if you're just making enough money to get by, is kind of what it reads as. And so some of these G Leaguers and international people.
I was about to say, do you think there's any guys on the Memphis hustle who can go suit up for the Tigers?
I think the moment you play professionally, which is not collegiate, you sign any type of professional contract, I think you should be null and void from college athletics.
Penny's at these high school games. He needs to be down at the Lander Center in South Haven.
I don't know how long those.
Find a G League guy.
I don't know how long. He might as well go to the YMCA. I think there's a couple of gyms down the street with some dudes hooping. I don't know how long this trend is going to last because there's so many coaches making a stink about it. There's so many coaches that are upset about what's going on right now that basically there's a loophole that Baylor and a couple other people are trying to dip into that I don't think is going to last.
It was hilarious listening to what Calipari had to say.
But let me just say, Calipari preaching the absolute gospel when it comes to recruiting and NIL and eligibility right now. If you have not listened to what John Calipari's had to say about that, you need to listen because he is preaching the gospel.
Now, something I want to ask you, because Calipari is one of my favorite coaches in the game. Do you think that this new world we are in is going to slowly but surely push out some of these old coaches? I'm now starting to think, I think guys like Coach K and Jim Boeheim saw this coming, and that's why they left. Because I think they would still probably be coaching if it wasn't for the NIL that they foresaw coming. I think we're just going to start losing more of those elder heads. Sooner or later, we won't have Tom Izzo.
Can we keep it a buck?
For Michigan State.
Dude's been getting paid forever.
Okay.
Dude's been getting paid forever. Let's just keep it a buck. Dude's been getting paid forever. Now they're just getting paid on the front end, not the back end, right?
Free agency every year.
Yeah, it's not behind closed doors. It's in the middle of the gym. So the payment isn't the issue. It's the entitlement that I think some of the more older established coaches don't like. Even some of these young coaches. We say older coaches. I promise you, some of these younger coaches don't like the entitlement that's going on right now because they didn't grow up in that. They grew up. The pennies of the world grew up grinding for their spot, right? There's a lot of coaches who don't like the entitlement, but just like anything else, they don't want to be the ones that are bucking the system and saying, this is stupid, I don't like. Calipari is one of the only ones coming out saying it in plain English. Most of them feel the same way.
Well, you know, Penny's found loopholes. Remember, I think we talked about it. Penny, was fining Aaron Bradshaw from his NIL, which I don't know if that's legal. But Penny was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, Penny was like, you're late to practice? Fine. He was like, you don't show up to meetings? Fine. And I guess that's the way. He was like, yeah, we paid for you to be here, but just like a professional team, if you don't follow our standards, we're going to take some of that money away. So that might be the way to do it.
Well, everybody should have a contract that includes a buyout clause for a school if you want to leave. I think it should be 1 year of free transfer, and any transfer after that should be sit a year. And those contracts should have expectations and guidelines, just like coaches, where if you get so far, you get bonuses, whatever. But if you don't do X, Y, or Z, you can get fined or whatever. I think all of those contracts should have all of those implements in it. And I definitely think, but this is my own personal opinion, it's probably another hot take. I think that just like any other sport, there should be salary caps for each grade level. I think when you're a high school kid coming in and you have not played 1 ounce of collegiate basketball or football, you should have some type of a cap. You still get paid, but you should have some type of salary cap, right? Just like in the NBA, just like in the NBA, in NFL, there are rookie salaries.
Yeah.
Then after your rookie contract is over, so your freshman year, now you're open to free agency or whatever. Hey, you've played the year.
But you know, a lot of times they want one and done.
Okay, so then go get that NBA money.
So you're trying to say it's more of an incentive to stay because they'll probably make more money.
What I'm saying is there's so many people shooting money at kids who aren't proven who end up struggling.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell, you're throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars at a kid because you have to. There is no, if you don't understand how this thing works, there's no true market value for any kid. Your value is what your agent and everybody else says it is. So it's not like there's a metric where they can go and say, okay, you're 6'10", you average 20 points a game, your value equals out to $500,000 a year. Doesn't work like that. It's the kid saying, I want to make $500,000 a year. First person that says they'll give me that, that's where I'm going. And so then if Arkansas says I'll pay you that, then Ole Miss says, no, we'll match that and we'll beat it by $100,000. Now this kid's market, his rate is going way up, but it's unproven.
And then as soon as he doesn't deliver, you're getting buyer's remorse, and then they're right back in.
But now you're stuck. So which is a part of these.
Well, not necessarily you aren't stuck because they'll just hit the portal again.
Yes, but what I'm saying is those incentives, that money should be paid out in portions based on performance.
True. I get you.
My contract, I have a contract here at this station. It is for a certain amount of dollars. I don't get all those dollars up front.
Yeah.
I earn those dollars bi-weekly in a paycheck.
We all do. Well, not all of us.
Right.
But most of us do.
This should be no different for a college athlete. You should be earning your money as you perform throughout the course of a year. You know that if you're in the NFL, if you're, I don't know, NBA too, I'm assuming, but in the NFL, for sure, I know that if you're injured, if you don't play, you don't what?
You don't get paid.
You don't get paid.
Well, yeah, NBA, the money's guaranteed, but for some people like Zion Williamson, they'll put clauses in their contract.
So in the NFL, if you don't play, you don't get paid that week. If you get suspended, that's why NFL players
like with the
fight
DK Metcalf
suspensions.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You fight the suspensions all the time because you don't want to be suspended, because if you get suspended, you don't get a game check.
Yeah, and then you can lose those guarantees, like with
Yes.
DK Metcalf when he hit the fan.
So all of these high school and college athletes need the same type of benchmarks that the professional athletes have, because they're making the same, if not more money than some of these professional athletes. Cool. I have a son. I have two sons that are growing up. Hopefully they're blessed enough to play college athletics. If so, I want them to be able to be paid when they do it.
About to say they're going to come to that NIL belt and put you in the
That's great.
bins.
I'm
They'll
good.
put you in brand new
I'm
bins.
good with all that. But
brand new bins coming up to the Ruben Diaz household.
But what's going to happen is if there's not some structure, then this thing is going to bust like a big old bubble. And before you know it, instead of everybody getting some kind of money, it's going to wipe the whole thing out, and you have to start over fresh. There's a right way to be doing it, and we're just not doing it that way.
Going back to the Tigers thing, like we talked about Najee, if you are a Memphis Tigers fan, you got to be upset because you couldn't get Dane Danger back, who was their big-time big last year. And what we've talking about, that's what Memphis is missing out on.
Yeah.
I believe, Ruben, if they had Danger this year, they would be in a better situation. But Danger's over there sitting. He tried to get more eligibility. They're saying no, but then you got this Najee guy who's getting minutes for Baylor, and Danger's like, I can't catch a break.
Yeah, so NCAA is subjective, not objective. I will say this. I do think, back to your point about Memphis being guard heavy, I think the game is a guard heavy game anymore. And I think in the American, they can win with a guard heavy team.
And it's more so because of the culture we're now. Small ball is starting to be the way to
So what I'm saying,
play.
it's a guard heavy game. And Memphis is going to rely on defense.
Which they are very good defense.
Yes.
I looked up a stat. I think they're 30th in defensive efficiency in the country.
And that's with some of the games that think about the teams they've played.
Their only thing is sometimes, and I noticed this when I was at the Vanderbilt game, they have this tendency where they can foul a lot and they're undisciplined. But when they're locked in, like they were in that Rice game down the stretch, they are very good.
Sometimes fouls come from fatigue too as well. If you're, while you're figuring out your rotation, some people may not be in the best shape, whatever, but so some of that could be from fatigue. But I will say they're going to live on defense in the American. They're guard, even though they're guard heavy, they have talented guards, which means that if one or two guys are not shooting the ball well or scoring well, they have other guards they can play
Step up.
that will get that stuff. Now, I will say they need to shoot the ball better from outside. 2 games in conference play, they're only shooting 29% from three-point line.
Yeah.
That's not great. That tells me you're going to have to live on defense. 13 assists a game, but 17 turnovers a game. That's not the way you want those stats to look.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of interesting that they have such a vast amount of time off. I mean, you're talking about they played Rice this past Saturday, then they got FAU this weekend. So you got a lot of time to watch film, a lot of time to get those kinks out, and just keep doing what you're doing in American play.
I think they win out in the American. I think they make it to the NCAA tournament, and if they get a good matchup with another guard-heavy team, they're fine. Now, if they get matched up with an extremely big team, they might struggle because rebounding will kill you. I don't care who you are. Rebounding wins games, and if you don't have the bigs to rebound, that can be your problem.
At least they can be able to fall back on that non-conference play and be like, okay, we're ready for a team like this. But it's still a whole lot of ball to be played.
100%. All right, we got to take another break.